In practical terms, between 1973 and 2003, the law was not used. There's no cases of anyone being deprived for those 3 decades. After 2003, the law changes. It radically changes to the extent that now those 3 criteria which had to be proven against you are gone. There's just a catch-all test that if the Secretary of State, the Home Secretary, is satisfied that you have carried out any act seriously prejudicial to the vital interests of the UK, so a very broadly phrased term, they can deprive you of your citizenship. Now, critically, this also applies not just to naturalized citizens, but to people who are born British. And thirdly, your appeal against that decision goes to what's called the Special Immigration Appeals Commission. So this is a specialist tribunal which was initially created to hear the appeals of people being deported from the UK on national security grounds. And now they were entrusted with the responsibility of checking if someone's been deprived, why someone should be deprived of their citizenship. Now you can see there's a huge difference that's happened there. If you look at the timing, it's 2003. It's a classic early years of the war on terror, the 9/11 years with all that happened at that time. And you can pass it off. I mean, just looking at it from afar, you might be able to just pass it off as one of the many, many draconian pieces of legislation that were passed at that time. But that is actually, there's something more specific when you look at it, because studying the historical development of this law, you see that it literally was brought in for a single man. And that man was someone named Abu Hamza al-Masri. So for the younger viewers who may not be familiar with him, Abu Hamza was an Egyptian cleric who came to the UK. He naturalized as a British citizen in 1986. And he had very, let's say, controversial views. They weren't palatable to many, but he hadn't broken any laws, he hadn't committed any crimes. As far as the police were concerned, as far as the Crown Prosecution Service were concerned, they weren't able to bring any charges against him. Even after 9/11, he carried on with his rhetoric. There was still nothing that they said they could find him guilty of, or even enough evidence to charge him with a crime. And that's to me is a bit of a cop-out, because later on he was actually prosecuted for incitement offences. But prior to that, the Daily Mail, the Sun, the tabloid press, they all carried out this campaign to deport this man. That this man is an anathema to everything we stand for. We need to deport him. And with Abu Hamza, he had several disabilities. He had no hands. He had hooks on his hands as a prosthetic limbs, essentially. He had one eye, and these are injuries he picked up, from what I understand, clearing landmines in either Afghanistan or Bosnia, I'm not sure. But essentially, these were his disabilities. Yet there was no let-up in the campaign of demonization of him. Yeah. There was headlines of Captain Hook, Mr. Hooky, sling your hook. So unfortunately, this spread throughout communities, throughout the Muslim community, and everyone sort of it's almost like he was exceptionalized, that this is someone you can make fun of his disabilities. This is someone you can mock his vulnerabilities. You can mock his foreignness. And that last point is a key issue, because the whole issue was deport this man, deport Abu Hamza. How could you deport him? He's a British citizen. And therefore, the law was amended specifically for him. So he hadn't committed a crime that he'd been sentenced to 12 months. He hadn't shown disloyalty to the Queen. He hadn't sided with the enemy at the time of war. He hadn't got a citizenship by fraudulent means. So they had to actually really completely change the legislative landscape in order to take away, to try to deport him. So the first step is take away his citizenship. And just to highlight how this law was specifically drafted for one man, is that 3 days after the law came into place, Abu Hamza was served with his deprivation notice.